In this lesson, we'll build the supporting steel column structure underneath our space frame. Now, just before I create that column structure, let me just go and make an instance mirror copy of this top frame. Now, I wanted to do this on camera just to show you the process as well so that I don't jump too many steps off camera. So I'm going to look in my side view now. It's in the front view actually. And with the two objects selected, I'm just going to hit the mirror icon. And then with instance selected in the Y direction, I'm just going to create an offset. I believe the amount needs to be around -9 meters for that to be correct. So what you've done now is essentially you've mirrored instanced it so that any modifier that is in the bottom one will now be instanced with the top. So if I want to change a radius to my strut, it will basically happen globally. And that's exactly what we want to create. We always want to have that referencing happening. So now what we want to do is create some type of other structure that supports these space frames. And instead of doing just a simple column, we're going to do a column that splits up. And we want to use the same geometry, but we want to scale it up a little bit. So what we're going to do is take one of these elements, and let's say we want to take this one down here, and then let's go and isolate them. I'm going to then drag and make a copy of this, and I'm going to look in my top view and then scale it up. So let's choose a value of 200, and this means that it'll be twice as wide, twice as long, and I'm going to just align it with my structure. Next, I'm going to decide more or less where I want it to be, so you can either position it right back here, and this we should decide because it's going to be pretty much an important element. And once we look in our left view, you'll be able to see that the structural decision about where to put them is not just aesthetic, it's also a question of how the space frame should be supported. So here what I'm going to have is 3 modules on either side and then 4 modules spanning, and then the set of 2x2s is going to be supported. So this is going to now occur in that direction, and it's also going to be repeated back. So next I want to use this same derivative object to create my frame. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing that we did before. I'm going to first of all, make it unique so that I can copy the other ones around. And I'm going to use an editable poly. I'm going to remove the top of it. And then for the bottom, what I'd like to do is create a stronger column. So I'm going to have 4 columns coming down. So instead of having this sharp point and basically making it come down to a single point, I'm going to chamfer it slightly. And then I'm going to take this poly and extrude it downwards. So now I can look in my side view and I can basically bring this to the surface of the barge. And this now will be the derivative object for that column structure. So if you want to make this larger, you can do that in top view, and we can go and use this scale to basically move it and make it larger. I'm just going to recenter it by eye. Again, what's quite an important tip to remember with these type of things is I wouldn't necessarily come in here and zoom in too far and try to over align it to make it too precise. Try to remember that when speed modeling, try to work on your model from as far as possible, because it will stop you from wasting too much time getting things too precise. Remember to work quickly, work roughly, and don't zoom in. It's basically a good speed modeling technique if you want to go fast. Then you can either choose to use the same lattice. What I'm going to do is copy paste it instead of copy and instancing it, because I would like to make this one a little bit stronger looking. So I'm going to double up that size. And what we can also do as another option is, instead of necessarily creating a lattice around this, we could also go and extract geometry from it and then sweep it. So this, just to show you another option, is you could take these verticals, you could take these verticals and perhaps even this one set of horizontal, leaving out the top and the bottom, and you could go and extract a spline out of it. So let's scroll down here and create shape. Just click on settings and let's choose a linear shape. So this shape can now then be swept, so SW enter on your modifier, and we can now pretty much work with this swept shape in the same way that we did with our lattice. So we can create a radius of, let's say, 0.1, so nice sturdy structure, and we can also obviously change that section, and we can even create a custom section by choosing the pick tool and then clicking on a section spline within our scene. So right now you can see how this object may be better looking than this one, which has these top struts, and I'm going to just go and delete the one that was made using the lattice so that I can show you the different techniques. So there is one of those supporting elements. So I'm going to now take this and copy it around. If you want to be quite precise, you can go and take the structural lattice and then just removing the modifiers, you can see how you can use a common point to go and copy it. So if I just select my object, turn on your snaps, turn on your lock selection, you can use an existing point and you can basically copy it in that way. So just holding down Shift will allow you to create an instance having a common point between the object. So the same thing now can be done in this direction, where we can choose to now copy it like so. I'm not sure what the spacing between them should be in that direction, so I'm just going to do a few tests for myself. And I think if we leave 3 in between, then we can do 4 copies. So as well, this is something that you can experiment with. You can perhaps, this one will be moved outwards slightly. And this is more or less, I think, where the central spine will be of the building. So we don't necessarily need to have that. We will assume that the building itself can be supported on fewer supports than we have here. So this reference I'm just going to move up and out the way so that I can keep it if I need it later on. And it may even be possible in a structure like this to support it with even less structure. So perhaps even moving these one module back and removing the double set may be a better looking solution architecturally, but of course that would have to be confirmed with an engineering team. So I'm going to now just move this 2 modules back, and I'm going to see what effect that gives me. And I pretty much think that that's starting to look quite interesting as far as a building that's supported by tree-like elements. And once you're happy with that, you can then also in your side view go and move this upwards so that you are now also supporting the roof above it. You will then remember I'm going to make a copy, and I'm going to take the ones from below, and I'm just going to modify this spline so that I have another element coming up, and I'm going to move these up to basically meet with that structure so that we have a double tree-like structure holding up the entire space frame. So because all of these at the back are instanced, they will basically be updated automatically. And I now just need to copy these ones across to that point there as well. So I'm going to isolate this. And I'm going to, in my top view this time, just copy this back. And those will be instanced since they are the top set. So that is it for this lesson. And what I wanted to show you mainly is just how you can use that same base geometry, scaling it up using the same angles. Nothing really has to be recalculated. And very quickly you can see how your lattice can be created for your structure and your actual floor slabs. And also what I showed you is the fact that you don't have to use a lattice modifier. You can also use splines with the sweep modifier. It's often very good for columns and beams, any type of more singular element. But when you have a complex lattice like this, it's very nice to use the lattice modifier. So that is it for this lesson. In the next one, we will have a look at more of the facade. And then I think what will be quite interesting is to actually work on deforming the roof at the top so that we can make more of the sphere stand out. We want to make the building from at least street level look very linear and very simple. But once we arrive up into this arrival column, we would like this top roof, I think, to be deformed downwards the way I had showed you in that example at the end of the last lesson. So all of that is going to be coming up as we work and change this geometry. We're going to make it look very interesting, very architectural, and that's definitely to be seen.